the Green Party's Leeds Central candidate, and it's actually a bit of a homecoming for you, Ed, because you used to be a student there at Leeds Uni.
I came to Leeds 20 years ago to study, having kind of grew up in different corners of the UK, came to Leeds to study, had 3 or 4 years very happy here at the campus, but then since then I've stayed on in the city, got invested in the city, got involved in loads of stuff, and then more actually just in the last few years got involved in politics.
Okay, so first question is about the NHS. So funding for the NHS would rise by £6 billion a year until 2030 under the Green Party.
Yeah.
So specifically, where would this money be invested, and what benefits would the public and NHS staff see as a result of this investment?
So I've got some mates who work in the NHS, and I know lots of people who are kind of long-term kind of patients or getting care from the NHS. And the last 10 years has undoubtedly seen a massive squeeze on the NHS. So I think in the short term, and you've always got to approach things at short, medium and long term stuff. Short term, we just need to release the squeeze. And the way to that is just to, briefly, it's just to stick some money in. We need to get some more money in. I also think that, and we are not the only people talking about this, but I think the current political, the government, the Tories and co, have rhetorically created an atmosphere that has it's not been an inviting atmosphere for people to come and work here. So we've lost tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of NHS staff who, from other parts of the world, who would have come here and worked here, but they're not here. So we need to turn those two things around in the short term. I suppose something I'm really passionate about the idea is the idea of trying to remodel the NHS with less fixation on big institutions like hospitals, great though they are, and like serious investment and devolution of provision into communities. Kind of like a real move, and that wouldn't happen overnight, but a real move over kind of years into real community provision.
Let's talk about climate change. Obviously a massive issue at the moment, and a massive issue for the Green Party, the pioneering party on the issue. The UK Parliament declared a national climate emergency early this year. So could you just tell us a little bit about the policies that the Green Party are putting forward to really tackle this massive issue?
We're like the Green Party delighted. We are a smaller party undoubtedly, but we're delighted that this issue that we've been trying to get attention on, and others outside of the party political system, we've been working very, very long and hard for decades to get attention on. It's arrived, and everyone's talking about it, and that's good. I'm delighted as well that the Green Party have pioneered a whole load of policies, the details of which I'll give you in a minute. And it's great to see that the bigger parties are picking them up because they see that they're a vote winner. And it'd be easy to get really, really competitive about that and say, that's terrible, I can't believe they're nicking our ideas. But actually, it's flattering, it's good. And if it enables serious climate action to happen, then that's a result. So the Green Party, so Greenpeace gave us top marks and gold medal for our Green Manifesto. Other parties are doing some really good stuff, but I think ours is the boldest and what we need. So in the UK, we're the first people to start talking about the Green New Deal, of course, which mimicking the New Deal politics of the 1930s, kind of major investment and, if necessary, borrowing to fund kind of what you'd probably call kind of revolutionary and very broad scale and fairly fast action on climate change. So a lot about transport, serious investment particularly in local and regional transport. We feel that a lot of the bigger transport projects, in the case of HS2, high speed rail, to just a huge white elephant, a huge vanity project, the money, and they estimate it will be over £100 billion, would be far better spent in local services around local trains or local buses, but also kind of regional rail. So the north has rubbish rail infrastructure, and that needs to change. Within that as well, certainly Leeds needs a mass transit system. Everyone's promising that, or almost all the parties are promising that within Leeds. I think that needs serious attention. And also, just making our city more cyclable and more walkable, of course.
Another promise is to scrap tuition fees and write off ex-students' debt who studied under the £9 grand per year regime. Do you think this is necessary, and could the £33 billion, which would pay off student debt, be better off spent elsewhere?
I think we just need to make a choice, and we need to about how we understand education. If we understand education mainly as a commodity to be bought, a useful commodity, then yes, it makes sense to pay for it. But I think if you look at other countries that I think in many cases we would see as kind of peer countries we want to be like, there's Scotland of course, but also most mainland European countries like Germany, Holland. These are not failing societies, these are societies that have decided that higher education is worth investing in, and that young people, young adults coming through are worth investing in, and so they have continued to keep zero tuition fees. So it's not this impossible thing. It's a thing we just need to come to some consensus about. So yes, and again, there's this idea. Well, is it fair that everyone pays for tuition fees? If you have a properly progressive tax system. So, for example, in Germany they have 30% corporation tax. In this country, 19%, and a whole load of loopholes. If you have a positive progressive tax system, you can make sure that people with more money pay more, people with less money pay less, and so there isn't a sense that the hard-done kind of people working in manufacturing or driving the buses are paying for all these students to have their lovely student time. It's far more complex than that.
And moving on to Brexit now. The Greens' position is to put it to a people's vote and then to campaign Remain. How can you bring Leave voters on board in your campaign?
So that is the Green Party policy. I somewhat, personally, I have a different spin on it, and it's absolutely related to your second question. So yes, I'm absolutely committed to people's votes. I think the position that the Lib Dems are taking of just scrapping Article 50 is, I know there are lots of lovely Lib Dems, but I think that position is immoral. And I even just think that the fact that they're saying it, especially knowing, like the Greens, they're not going to be in Downing Street, I think sends out a really unhelpful message in trying to build dialogue and trying to build consensus around Brexit. I think, I think probably the majority of people I know voted Leave. Like, I know lots of Remainers, but I know lots of Leavers as well. And I've thought about this a lot, and I think you can make a fairly strong ethical case to say that a people's vote, a multi-way people's vote, and I want to see all the offers on the table. I want to see no deal on the table. I want to see some version of Theresa or Boris's deal. I want to see some form of Norwegian-Swiss deal, EFTA or EEA, or Remain. And I want people to have like multiple votes, so first choice, second choice, third choice. And so yeah, and I think you could build a strong case to say that I think there was, like it's, as we all know, the 2016 referendum was hugely dysfunctional in the way that it was so vague. It wasn't voting on a particular piece of legislation, it was voting on an aspiration. And I think you make a fairly strong case to say, okay, well, we did vote to leave, but I think it's far from clear what kind of Brexit we voted for. We need to find a way through this muddle, and we need to get people's views on that. Personally, I would, I've been very public about this, I did vote Remain in 2016. Would I vote passionately, or would I campaign energetically for a Remain vote? No, I would do everything that I could possibly do to try to build maximum useful, generative dialogue in our communities, in our society more broadly, about the different options on the table, as opposed to, like, there's lots of people who've taken polemic positions, staunch leaders, staunch Remainers. That's fine. That's cool. That's good. People do that in politics. I think there's a real lack of people trying to be honest brokers, trying to facilitate dialogue. So we did some of that in the lead up to 2016. I hosted a couple of community hustings events, like debate events, and that was all right. But we just need to see a massive kind of increase in that to really unpick what we mean by Brexit and how we're going to go forward.
About voter reform, so in the last election the Green Party received over 500,000 votes, but had just one MP elected, Carlisle Interview. So with the first past the post system we have at the moment, with the two main parties being elected and being kicked out and being elected again, realistically they're not going to change the voting system because it does favour them.
Yeah.
So, in your opinion, how do you see the role of smaller parties like the Green Party in the next 10 years, in actually influencing these big parties and pushing for voting reform, but also beyond that, what is the role of the smaller parties?
I think, I guess on voting reform and a whole load of other issues, many of which we've already touched on, the Green Party has, and other smaller parties, have a role to be the tail that wags the dog, so to speak, to kind of call for stuff that we really believe in, to fight our corner, and wait in many cases for the bigger parties to be influenced. And I'm delighted to see, particularly Labour, but to an extent Lib Dem as well, but their manifestos massively shaped by our manifestos in 2017 and 2015, and that's a good thing. That's kind of us fighting our corner and kind of getting our agenda across. One thing I would add, by the way, so we've got 500,000 votes in 2017, we've got 1 MP. In 2015 we got well over 1 million votes, and again only 1 MP. It's a massively skewed system. As to whether electoral reform will happen, I guess my hope would be that actually you have some kind of left-wing coalition government comes into place at some point, and the smaller parties force the agenda and kind of force reform. I think we in the UK we're an anomaly having this first past the post system. You look across mainland Europe, again, countries that we I think in many cases we resonate with and would like to be like. They all have proportional representation of one form or another, and they have far more dynamic and I'd say healthier political systems with a wider range of opinions represented.